Welcome back to A Life Worth Living, a place for real and raw conversations with people from all different walks of life. In a world with social media where people's best lives are on display, we all need refreshing reminders that no one is perfect and you are not alone. This is where you hear the greatest life lessons from the most incredible life stories. A daily reminder of how beautiful this life is and how life is truly worth living. Sean Bingham is the founder of the travel app Tripio. He is a Shark Tank closer, founder of Adventure Hunt, sports podcaster, and an adventure and travel guru. In today's episode, we talk about entrepreneurship, travel, and how to live life to the fullest. Sean opens up about the loss of a loved one and how it has been navigating that experience. Sean, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, it's an honor to be here.
I'm so excited. You've got so many things going on, and you're an incredible person, first of all, and you've so many things that people can learn from, and it's going to be a good conversation.
I hope so. Let's dive into it, and I'm going to hope that I can measure up to some of the other guests that you have, you know?
No, absolutely you're going to be able to. So first, you were just in Hawaii.
I was, yeah.
So what part of Hawaii were you in again?
So we went to the Big Island, which a lot of people, I'm surprised, don't know what that is, but the four major islands are Oahu, Maui, Kauai, and Hawaii.
You've been to Hawaii so many times.
Hawaii is the Big Island, yeah. I've been to Hawaii many times. I probably go 7 or 8 times a year. So, yeah.
So awesome. So why were you there?
So it's a good friend of mine, Jimmy Rex. He has a men's coaching group, kind of a really cool networking group of guys where they're just striving to become better in every aspect of life. And it's called We Are the They. 10 of them brought their significant others, and we went and had a fun adventure trip.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
that's
cool bonding
so cool.
experience. Breaking out of your comfort zone. There was a lot of cool stuff we did. We went on catamaran tours. We went night diving with manta rays where they're like 16 to 20 feet across, you know, these big manta rays, and like you're in the ocean at night looking at them. But we went cliff jumping, we went into waterfall hikes, we did all sorts of fun stuff. It was a good time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love that he's doing that. So are you part of that?
I'm an honorary member is what Jimmy says. So I'm not an official member. I love what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so basically they hired my company Tripio to host the trip and take care of all the accommodations, the food, the excursions.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you guys do that all the time for different companies. And a lot of times it's probably something, it's like team building type stuff normally, right?
Yep. So I've been doing stuff for my company Adventure Hunt, but it kind of evolved, over time into something that was more travel related. It was like this team building stuff and these fun like scavenger hunts, and slowly it evolved into travel. When the pandemic hit, Adventure Hunt like took a huge nosedive.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Companies weren't even taking their employees into the office, let alone like gathering them together for a fun scavenger hunt, you know? And so we had like a lot of free time. And, we did our best to like make the most of that situation with Adventure Hunt. We went from like being mega busy to just not being mega busy.
Yeah.
But it was almost a blessing in disguise because we ended up having all this time to like think about like reevaluate your life. And I'm sure a lot of people did do this during COVID where you're just like, okay, what do I really want in life, And for me, like I loved what I was doing, but I knew I wanted to be more in the travel space.
Yeah.
And so there had been this idea for Tripio.
I'm so excited for Tripio.
Yeah, where it was basically like this technology that'll create an itinerary for you. Like right now, if you're going on a trip, you're probably going to Google top 10 things to do in Hawaii. You're going to post on your Instagram story, hey, I'm going to Hawaii. What are some suggestions? There's not really.
When I went to Hawaii, I was asking you. You sent me this massive list, and I was just like, I scored. And like my friends were literally like, who is this person?
Yeah.
They literally know all of the things. I was like, it made it so much easier.
Yeah. And so, and if you have a friend like that, it helps. Most people don't, have someone that just has everything right on hand. And I don't know everything for every location. So if you had gone to, I don't know, Zimbabwe, I wouldn't have had much to give you, right?
Yeah.
With Tripio, we've got a team of gurus, I call them. They're the researchers, and they're just full-time researching the best things to do, see, eat, experience, everything.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so now on the app, you go in and you enter your preferences, how into adventure are you? Art, history, culture, good eats, nightlife, family-friendly, stuff like that.
Perfect. Yeah.
You hit go, and it'll spit out the Britt Lamore top 10 things to do, not Sean Bingham's opinion or some blogger's opinion or TripAdvisor's top 10 ways on how they can make money off of you, but the top 10 things to do for you based on your preferences.
Unbiased and like completely.
And it'll do a full itinerary, map you around where you need to go. It's pretty awesome. Airbnb and hotels.com have lodging covered. Google Flights and Kayak have transportation covered, but there really isn't a great system for what to do when you get there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Other than TripAdvisor, which is really, if you look, it's just the top 10 ways they can make money off of you.
Honestly, I don't like TripAdvisor.
I don't either.
My husband and I travel a ton, and he traveled. What number are you at for your countries? Have you?
44.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, that's a lot, and it was mostly in your adult years. Right?
Yeah, almost
Which
entirely.
Is very impressive.
Yeah.
So my husband, his family is like low key the bucket list family, but like they just don't post.
Yeah.
Like they literally raise their kids. They have the most insane stories. It's so cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Literally took 6 of their kids with a newborn into like, I think it was Panama, on this like little island where they were literally half naked like people in this tribe.
Wow.
And the women stole the newborn baby, and went and tattooed the baby.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, like literally the most insane things like no one would do.
No.
So it was pretty cool. So he grew up.
I mean, I've never tattooed a baby. I know that, but
yeah, hopefully not. But he grew up like traveling 7 years out of his life total.
Wow.
And he's been to 69 countries now.
Wow.
And it's just incredible, the culture and everything.
Yeah.
So his parents became like professionals at planning trips.
Yeah.
We're trying to learn from them, right? And so that's a great source. But literally, I know nobody else except for you that can give those recommendations and actually. Yep. And his parents will look at TripAdvisor sometimes, and he will too. Sometimes you're overpaying for something. I like finding, which I've talked to you about, I like finding the things that are more local.
Yeah. And unique.
And
because TripAdvisor, they don't make any money if they tell you about a cool hike that's free.
Yeah,
and so they don't tell you about it.
Exactly.
And those are oftentimes the best stuff. I mean, so it's kind of funny. On this trip we just did with Jimmy and that We Are the They group in Hawaii, I asked everybody, like, what are some of your favorite things we did? The manta ray thing did rank really high, and that is something you would find on TripAdvisor. But the highest stuff were this water slide, like waterfall/water slide hike we did, and then this other place called Narnia, which is this waterfalls that you go and jump off of, and so it's these kind of more unique experiences, and neither one of those are findable on TripAdvisor at all. They don't exist.
Yeah.
And those were unanimously the 2 of the top 3 favorite things. Some people did like the manta rays more than those, but for the most part, those were the top 2 items, and neither one of them exists on TripAdvisor. So Tripio is pretty cool. That's the app. But what we did with Jimmy's group is we also, if people want like a full concierge kind of bougie, like, hey, we just want to show up and not have to deal with anything.
Yeah.
We want to show up and we want to have.
Do it all for us. Take us to where we want to go. And
yep. And you just wake up every morning and you're like, what am I eating? Perfect. Here's my breakfast. Like, where am I going today? What do I need to take? It's really pretty fun. I kind of feel like a dad because I've got all these people asking me questions like, what do I need to bring? How long till we're there?
Yeah.
But it's really fun. I like it.
That's so cool. I'm excited. Do you want to do that with your kids eventually?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Like from a pretty young age, or like once they probably get older?
It's funny because like I think a lot of people. I don't have kids, so I can't say for sure,
Yeah, and it'll just depend. Like, it'll change. Like, once that day comes and you do have kids, like, you might feel totally different.
Like, I want to be able to experience things with them, but, like, I want them to be able to remember it. And so I would prefer to do a lot of the fun stuff once they have, like, a memory. Because it's cool to say, like, I don't know how many of those 69 countries your husband went to, post, like, in teenage years and beyond.
Yeah.
But those are the years where you really start to, like, fully experience things, you know? You don't even really have a memory before age 5, and so
I don't.
So I just really love taking people to places that even if I've been there 100 times, like Hawaii, it's so fun to take people where it's their first experience.
Yeah, I can see that. You get to experience it through like their excitement all over again. Yeah. So it's like it's a different experience for you, but it's like I can see that being so fun.
It's very rewarding for me.
Yeah.
When people are like, "This was the best vacation I've ever been on," like and thanking me, I'm just like, "Oh, good, I did it." Feels good.
I wanted to ask about so many people are going to think it's so cool, and I know that I think it's so amazing that you were on Shark Tank. Not only that, you closed, right?
Yeah, we did.
So what was your experience when you were on the show? How was that experience for you?
Yeah, so it was for Adventure Hunt, which is the scavenger hunt company. We have an app where people will solve clues and complete challenges that guide them around town to like a buried treasure chest. So it's kind of like a mini Amazing Race for those that have seen the TV show. And it's all done through our app. And so it was an amazing experience. Like first off, the clip they aired or clip, the segment they aired was 11 minutes for us. But we were there for like 2.5 hours in the tank. And so
with the
sharks, like doing the back and forth,
that's
like
crazy. I didn't realize
hours.
that you're with them for that long.
Yeah. And you lose track of time. You're like standing on this exact spot. There's like a tape on the floor and you're like not supposed to move from that spot, and so
you're like, my feet are hurting.
Yeah. But it's kind of funny too, because like I had just gotten back from doing one of these group trips I was talking about. We do them to Panama. We never have done the tattoo baby thing, but we do go to Panama a lot.
Panama, I've heard, is awesome. I haven't been yet.
It's amazing. It's amazing. My theory on Panama is that like Costa Rica, just the name Costa Rica has this. Ooh, Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And Panama, we think of like drugs and like a canal and like, we don't really know what to think.
You wouldn't really expect, I think, what there is to do there.
But it's the same region of the world and it's equally spectacular to Costa Rica. So if you love Costa Rica, you would love Panama. So we go to Panama, Bocas del Toro. It's like off the coast of Panama, these little islands, really near the border of Costa Rica, by the way. So we were there on one of our big group trips. If you won one of our adventure hunts, in your city, you got to, as a team, come to Panama with us. So we would like go down and party for a week with like 50 to 100 people from around the country. It was so much fun.
That's so cool.
And so on this particular trip, we knew we had the Shark Tank thing coming up right after. So I actually had to leave 2 days early from this Panama trip to go film Shark Tank. So I had like this big send off from all these people that were huge supporters because they just won this trip, And
that's so cool.
Yeah, so it was just so much fun.
Amps you up.
Yeah, going into it and but I'd gotten a ton of bug bites in Panama. So we have like this, you have like this trailer, you feel like a movie star for like a day on Shark Tank. So you have a trailer that's yours. And
cool.
So they said, hey, it's you're up. And so I had this hydrocortisone cream to like, so you don't itch. And I'm like just dousing myself, my legs and arms. Like you couldn't see any of the bug bites, so it wasn't an issue. I was just like, I do not want to be distracted with itching during this pitch, like the biggest pitch of my life,
That's so funny.
So
that's so funny. I would hate that. That would literally be the most. But I feel like I would be so into the moment that I wouldn't.
Yes, you're
I wouldn't
so
really
focused,
think about it.
and you're right. You get so focused that you're just you forget everything else. And it was really cool because, so you go out there, you've got like this cheesy pitch that they kind of make you start with. You've all seen the show, and like they usually start with some memorized spiel. And I didn't love that part, but they make you do it. And they kind of, they don't direct what you say, but they do sometimes change the wording. Just, they'll be like, okay, this is the message you want to get across, but we want it to rhyme right here. So you need to say this. So you need to like, so they kind of want it to be like made for TV. And so that part, like, I was kind of nervous for, and like you're walking down the hallway and you've got the guy in front of you walking backwards with the camera, and it's just like the doors haven't opened yet and your like heart's pounding, and very nerve-wracking. The time leading up to it, very nerve-wracking. Once we stood on that X though and looked the sharks in the eyes and started our pitch, it was just like I was as calm, confident as could be. Like I was totally on my A game. Our opening pitch went well. We got some good laughs. And I was even more confident at that point. And I mean, honestly, we crushed the pitch. If you've watched it, or if anyone wants to look it up,
I've seen it.
And I don't mean to brag, but we really walked out, and I was just like, "Holy cow!"
Well, when you do a good job, like there's times where I'll do like speaking events. I'll be nervous beforehand, but then after you get down from you're done, and you're like, "Wow, I did great." It's not about being like overly confident. It's not. It's just like, that was a good experience for me to know that I'm capable of this. Like I'm good at what I do. You're gonna have times when you're like, freak, I didn't know the way I wanted to. But I think it's amazing whenever that does happen. It's a great feeling, and it's important to remember in those moments when you are nervous, and you can be like, I've felt this nervousness before, but I was totally fine.
I can do it.
That's
so it was cool. Pitch went well. We got to deal with Robert Hershevek.
I love him.
Yep, he's one of the main guys. For those that I get asked occasionally, like, which one is he? But he's the only guy with like a real solid full head of hair, I would say, of the sharks.
I hope that the other sharks don't.
Well, Mark Cuban's got like 90%, but Robert's is like thick and lustrous and nice. Really funny guy, very adventurous. So Mark was probably our first choice, if I'm being honest. I think he's kind of everybody's. But Robert was our second, and like he's such a great guy. He's such a good fit. Like he loves adventure. He's opened a ton of doors for us. Adventure Hunt, while we did take a huge hit during the pandemic, like we're still going. A lot of it's been automated now to where I'm able to focus full time on Tripio Tripio.
That's nice.
But Adventure Hunt's going well still up and running. And a lot of it's now done through technology where if you say you have a company and you want to do a big team building scavenger hunt through Adventure Hunt, you can just go to our website and create your own, and then it pulls in all of these activities and challenges and clues that we've already put in the system. And so you can just start to piece it together. Makes it way cheaper for you as the consumer, a lot more hands-off and easy for us as the owners, and so it's been nice. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, I'm always wondering, so after the fact, they don't really, I mean, sometimes they'll do like a little tiny segment and kind of show like where the company's at with the shark that's working with them.
Yeah.
But I always want to know, does it actually help? How involved are they? Is it more so that they're just like being an angel investor? Are they like pretty involved, or do they just kind of send like their assistants? I always wonder how that ends up looking. It
is mainly their team that you're dealing with, as opposed to like them personally.
Yeah.
So they're not super hands-on. Like, it's not like I'm meeting with Robert every week and saying, hey, what should we do here, there, or the other?
Yeah.
He's got his own multi-billion-dollar business to run.
He's so busy.
He's got his hands in like 100 other companies. So a lot of it is just like attaching their name to yours, a little bit of clout, a little bit of,
credibility.
Yeah, credibility. Thank you. I can send a cold call email and in the subject line put as seen on Shark Tank, like team building event as seen on Shark Tank.
Yeah. Immediately
and that email gets opened.
Yeah.
It's opened a ton of doors from that. Every time it re-airs, I think they've reran that episode like 10 times already. It's just it's a very popular
like in different
episode.
Seasons or
So they have this. So they syndicate it out to other networks, kind of like you'll see Friends or Seinfeld episodes still on TV, even though they stopped filming those decades ago.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like Shark Tank will just do reruns occasionally on different channels, and ours is one that they frequently choose to rerun.
Cool. Do you get like royalties, or do you get paid?
No.
Like, is it? I know it's like free advertising for you, so that's kind of like a huge benefit already.
Yeah, that's really all you get as the owners. Now we did have two kind of friends or helpers that came on as like actors, so to speak, and they do get paid. It's not very much, but they do get paid a little bit. It's been good. You definitely see like a big spike in some of the money that night, and every time it airs, because like, oh, look at that, we made more money than usual. It must have aired again. So
that's so awesome.
It's nice
because it is free advertising, and that's like a huge thing.
Yeah.
Did you have a ton of support initially from the beginning, or
tons? Yeah, and we had a big watch party and stuff too. And
you've got a good group of friends. Yeah, which is huge. It's definitely helpful because I know for me, starting off like as an entrepreneur, man, were your parents supportive?
Oh yeah, totally.
At first?
Yeah, my parents are ultra supportive.
That's awesome. Yeah. I know that for mine, and given, I think it's because I started so young too, so I'm like this young teenager who's like, I got these big dreams, so obviously giving my parents some slack for that because I totally understand. But I mean, it was hard. It's hard when you don't have that support, and I know a lot of people listening are probably like, man, I wish I had that, and it's something that can be very motivating if you choose for it to be, like I know that, and I don't want to like bash on my parents because they're like literally the most supportive people in my life right now, and they were like, but in that beginning it was hard. I felt like I had no support for like the first little while, and it's hard to keep going because you're not making money, you're not like like it takes a while to build up, and I know that a lot of people are in that position. And a lot of people are wanting to go down that route right now, being an entrepreneur. Like, there's so many incredible things to do. Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of it. I mean, obviously that's all I've done for like the last 15 years is entrepreneurship. I will say though, it's not for everybody, and it's not as glamorous as it seems, as you know, sometimes. Like there's days where I'm like, I wish I just worked for a big tech company making
tons of money.
$300,000 a year just selling stuff. But and I'm not in any way above that. It's just not what I want to be doing. And so I'm choosing a different path for me.
Lifestyle.
There's days where it's like creating the well-oiled machine is a lot harder than people think. If you're part of a well-oiled machine, it's easy to look and be like, oh, I could recreate this. This is easy. Like it just does that. And it's like, well, go try. It's very, very hard. But so it's not for everybody, and there's no shame in having a job where you work for somebody else, and maybe you get a little slice of equity and let them do all the hard stuff, and you just focus on your one path, and But
I think that sometimes it's hard when people are like, I just want to start with being an entrepreneur, and they don't have the finances necessarily, and they don't have, and that's really hard to build something so massive or so big when you don't have like that foundation. And so I know that me and my brothers, we're all the same. Like we're very much so like entrepreneur minded. We are innovative. We really want to be able to like create impact in the world in like our own ways. And it's so hard because, you have businesses that fail and then you have to get back up again, especially when you're younger, you're like, I don't have the finances. So you're going to try to get investors, and then you got to close that, and you got to maintain it. And I've got a younger brother who's, I swear he could do like anything he puts his mind to. And I'm so proud of him. He's doing awesome. He's 20 right now.
Wow.
He was like, you know what? I'm going to get a corporate job, and I'm going to like build up what I need to do, get myself in position. He's still young.
Totally.
You know? And so he's working 2 full-time jobs, 2 full-time corporate jobs right now, making great money. And he's going to be buying a 4-plex soon, and getting like an investment property under his belt. And then he's going to be, you know, going from there, he's going to definitely be going down the route of something that he'll be able to have the foundation for, you know. Yeah. But it's hard for those of us that enjoy being able to have our own time frame. Yeah. We don't have like limitations just because of how we operate. Yep. And so it's really hard to be able to hunker down and be like, okay, I'm just going to grind for a little bit. And eventually I'll be able to get to the point where I want to be at, you know? Yeah.
Well, and you do learn a lot from working in those corporate jobs, right? Yes, like I learned so much. I think about all the stuff I've learned over the years. So Tripio is really my 3rd, you know, company. Really, it's my 4th, because I started Top Blip, which was gig. It's like an online American Idol. I ran that for a couple years, sold it, learned a ton. The next business was KZ, which was a sunglasses and beanie brand. We sold it in 2016. I think 2017. So we started it in 2000. I think we sold it in 2017. We started it in 2000, 4 years earlier. So 2013 we launched it.
Okay, cool.
We had like floatable sunglasses and stuff like that.
I remember.
Really cool. Sold that to a private equity firm in Cleveland. That was a really cool experience. And so that one was like a little bit better than gig. Like I learned a lot. I mean, they're very different companies, but like you learn and you take it and build. Yeah. Then the next one was Adventure Hunt, and Adventure Hunt started as a marketing event for the sunglasses brand, and then it turned into a company of its own.
Oh, okay.
And then we got on Shark Tank for that, and that one was run even a little bit better than KZ, made more money than KZ, and they each got progressively better. And so Tripio would now be the 4th. So I've done 3, and this would now be the 4th, and each of them have had about a 3-4 year lifespan before I've sold them off. Yeah. Tripio's one though where I'm like, I want this to
Probably wanna hold on to it.
I want this to be the home run, you know? Like I've been getting little base hits, use the baseball analogy, where it's like, hey, you know, I didn't make tens of millions, but like I got on base, I didn't strike out, you know, I didn't even pop out.
Have you ever striked out? Was there a business that you started where you feel like you kind of experienced some failure, or like even a business that kind of had like a big dip, like and?
So Adventure Hunt took a big dip. I've not had a business that failed, knock on wood, you know. I don't think it's because I'm so talented. I think it's because I just have this mentality of like, I'm going to succeed. I'm going to work until I figure it out.
Well, that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, and I think people can do, and I don't want to, you know, sound cheesy, but like people really can do whatever they want. They just have to go and do it. Yeah. You know, you have to just put in the work, put in the time.
You might not be able to do it all by yourself. Delegating out and finding the right connections is massive, which I feel like you're very good at.
Yeah, and it's crazy like what's available on the internet. If you just like search, you know, you can find so much stuff to help you. Yeah. So, but
my older brother started 2 companies, and he literally was just like, I'm just gonna learn how to code the website myself.
Really?
Yeah, and
that's impressive. Yeah.
Like, okay, like you literally, if you put your mind to it, like you said, the internet's just huge now, and you can do whatever. Yeah,
so thinking of failures, because I know that was something we had talked about discussing. I've definitely had plenty of failures, you know, plenty. So there's definitely been some learning along the way where you start to, you know, you realize like, okay,
you don't did something wrong there. You just like pivot, you realign, you figure out what needs to be done. And
I don't remember who said this first. I think Mark Cuban is credited for the quote, but I don't know if it's for sure his. But if you're going to fail quickly. You know, like it's way better to kind of like learn, cut your losses, and move on to the next thing than it is to beat a dead horse, you know, where you're just like trying and trying and trying.
I think that's really important for entrepreneurs to hear. Yeah. Because sometimes you get so attached to the idea and the dream that you don't want to let it go. Yeah. You're like, no, I'm gonna figure this out. And like sometimes it's good and you're able to push past it. But like I think sometimes that's a really big, really amazing piece of advice. Yeah. Because otherwise you get buried in it, and then it's even harder to come out of that.
Well, and it kind of becomes your identity. And so for me, KZ didn't fail, but I got to a point where I was like, I'm not passionate about this. I'm actually not like waking up in the morning stoked to do this. It's worth money. I'm going to sell it.
That's
and so
great.
We sold it, and it wasn't for some huge amount, you know, but like I had made great money each year that I worked there. I made great money when I sold it. I didn't get retirement money. I made plenty. And I moved on to something that I was more excited about. And I did the same thing with the with the music company. So I'm an opportunist, right? Like I see an opportunity and I find a way to make it fit into what I'm doing.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love hearing about all this because it's so relatable. A lot of people can relate, and it's really inspiring.
Yeah.
This is like my favorite part about doing this podcast. I want to get into the uncensored Q&A because this is where we really are able to connect with the listeners.
Yep.
And so many people can relate to so many different things, anything really, because we all have our own life. We have, whether it's business, whether it's like personal, whether it's relationships, whatever it might be. There's always going to be different things that we go through that we can then learn from. And I want to know from you, like, just because you've done so many things in your life and you're a very inspiring person, we all know that, like, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You've had, like, your ups and downs in life. And so I feel like it would be really cool just to be able to talk about, you know, if you're willing to share something that's difficult or painful or hard or anything that you've experienced in your life. And what did you learn from it?
Yeah. You know, I don't know if you know, I think you probably know this, maybe not, but the hardest thing I've ever gone through was just recently, and I know you just had a guest that you were talking about whose dad died, but my dad just died the day before Thanksgiving, so just like 2 months ago.
You know what? I did see that, and I actually wanted to cry when I saw it. I know how close you guys are. Yeah,
so that was like far and away the hardest thing I've ever gone through. Like it was a pain, and for those that have experienced it, they can relate, I'm sure. But me and my dad are super, super close. Like he was someone I looked up to. Still do look up to, you know, a lot. Turn to him for advice all the time. And he was just like, you know, kind of like your guide, you know, my guide through life almost. Like there was I felt better making decisions if he was there to like give me his advice, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
So anyway, it was like a pain and like a sadness that I truly like didn't know existed, you know, like it was awful. And it still is hard, you know, but it's definitely gotten better. Like, and with that, because, you know, everyone has their different faith and opinions on the afterlife. Like, I personally like have very full faith that there is an afterlife and that I'll see him again, and that he lived this life to the absolute fullest, and that everything that matters in this life, he did very, very well, and that he's going to be welcomed with open arms in heaven, and you know, and so. Yeah. So, and we also had, you know, I'm 40 years old, so I got 40 years, you know, with this like world-class dad.
Yeah.
Which is
a blessing.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't get that. And so I feel very blessed, very lucky. And so once I kind of shifted, you got to grieve, you got to be sad.
So important. Yeah.
But I kind of shifted my thoughts and my focus to like, and it kind of naturally took over. Like I naturally just started feeling all this gratitude. Wow. Which is weird. Like your dad died and you're grateful, you know, but like I started feeling gratitude that I had such an amazing dad, because I have a lot of people in my life whose dads are still alive and they don't have a good relationship with them, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just felt so grateful for what I did have, you know, and I think that's a key. I don't know if you follow Gary Vee. I'm guessing you do. Like, I like Gary Vee a lot. I know he can be corny sometimes, but
very uncensored guy.
If you like cuss words, you will like Gary Vee. But he focuses on gratitude so much. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. Like if you just focus on things that are going well for you, that are good for you, that, you know, because you can control so much in your life. Like I was listening just yesterday to Colin Cowherd's podcast, and he always like brings in these life metaphors. He's like, you can control, most people in life don't realize this, but like you can control everything in your life. You can
100%.
Control how you react to things. You can, if you don't like your job, you can change it.
Yep.
If you don't like where you live, you can change it. If something pisses you off on the freeway, some driver, you can change how you react to that and how you feel about it.
Yeah.
And so if you focus on gratitude, for me, it helped a ton to get through that really hard time. And it's only been 2 months. Like it's still hard. And I'm still, my heart still hurts for my mom so much right now, you know?
Was it unexpected?
Totally unexpected. Yeah, he was walking out of church. He was full health. They'd just gotten back from serving a mission for our church in Nauvoo, Illinois, which is like a historic site.
Like I thought they just got back.
They'd been home for like 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is not a long time.
And they had just bought a house. They hadn't even moved into it yet. The night that he went to the hospital was supposed to be their first night in their new house, you know? And yeah, he just was walking out of church and was just like, I feel funny, and that was it. He ended up having a stroke, and so like the main artery that like leads to your brain, like it just blood clotted off, and yeah, he had like a catastrophic stroke. He actually had one that he was semi-recovering from. It looked like he was going to have a very good recovery, but hours later he had another one in the exact same spot, and that was it. So, and I was actually in Panama when it happened on one of our group trips.
Really?
With one of the sales incentive trips I do.
Shoot, so you weren't able to be
so
there.
I wasn't even there. I mean, I got on the very next plane and went home.
That's good. Yeah, I'm glad you were able to do that.
Yeah, so I got to be there before he was like officially, passed on.
Mm-hmm.
But he was already kind of gone when I got there, So I kind of found out on a plane by myself, because like I was rushing home and they were saying we're trying to, they're doing some tests, they're doing this. So I'm sitting in Panama City. I just flown from Bocas del Toro to Panama City. And I, get on the plane to go from Panama City to Atlanta and then from Atlanta to Salt Lake. And I'm on the plane in Panama City and we're getting ready to take off. And my brother had just taken way too long to respond. It had been like, he had said like, oh, the doctor's coming in right now to tell us the results of the MRI or CT scan or whatever. And they had, if it's good news, it's like usually like a few minutes later you get a text like, oh, he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And it had been like 20 minutes. And I was like, okay, clearly...
There's
you
wrong.
didn't want to accept it, but like I kind of knew before I knew, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then he, when he told us, it was like, hey, in more or less words, it was like, hey, he's not dead, but he's not going to recover, So that was like, that was the one time I was grateful for a mask mandate on the plane because I got to cover up my face at least a little bit, while I bawled and, by myself on a plane with strangers. It sucked really bad. I can't even describe how bad it sucked, but yeah. But
I can't even imagine that. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So
losing a parent is just something that I can't even fathom. Like I've had nightmares about it, and it's just like it's just different. Like in person, when that actually happens, it's a moment that like you just don't ever want to anticipate, and especially to be alone like that. I just wish so badly that you didn't have to have that part of it at least. So I'm so sorry. That's just like, it's just so hard. So hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. So, so that was definitely hard. But I think what got me through that was my faith and gratitude. So those are two things that got me through that, which was the hardest thing I've ever gone through.
Yeah.
So,
did you ever experience being like upset or angry? Like I know that sometimes people who have similar faith and believe in God, like did you ever go through something like that where you were just like it was so sudden and it wasn't
I didn't I didn't with this. I felt very sad. You have a lot of like questions but I mainly just felt really, really sad, and then the sadness started to turn into gratitude, and like I can still feel his presence pretty frequently, and like in the days following, there was a lot of moments, like pretty consistent moments where you could feel it. And
what was that like?
It's awesome. And I don't know for sure, if every time I'm feeling, I know that I do feel his presence. I don't know if every single time it's him or if it's my own thoughts, maybe it's a combination of the two.
Yeah.
But I don't care because I like it either way,
It's reassuring. It's comforting.
Yeah. And so... Yeah, so for me, like I didn't feel like the anger. I do hear people say that. I didn't experience that. I experienced sadness, but not anger.
Yeah, the grieving process is so massively important for anything hard, any type of loss, any type of trauma. It's hard when you're so busy to be able to allow yourself to feel all those things. It just recently happened, so I'm grateful that you're willing to talk about it because I know that it hits so close to home still, and it probably will for a long time.
Yeah.
But I know that there are so many, I just had a friend who had the same thing happen, and so like I know so many people can relate, and I know that so many people are, feeling this with you and for you. That grieving process, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think it's so much easier to just like suppress. Sometimes for me to continue going forward, even like with business or whatever, you're just like, okay, like switching into another gear, There's days where like, I've experienced so many times in my life, I don't even want to get up. It's such a hard feeling to have to like go so deep inside of you and let yourself feel that sadness.
Yeah.
Because it's not comfortable. It's way easier to just be like, I'm going to put this in a box,
Yeah.
Because this is how I'm going to be able to move forward. And so many people do that. And I know that it ends up kind of coming up later on. How is it that you've been able to like manage and navigate that the grieving process?
Yeah, I mean, right away you just put everything, at least I did, just put everything on pause because nothing meant more to me than family, you know? And so, you know, all the work stuff, all the business stuff. And that's one thing that, like, you know, my dad was a good example of the things that really matter in life. Like, that's what he focused on. He was very accomplished in life. Like, he had his MBA from George Washington. He was a successful international businessman. He had traveled to more than 50 or 60 countries.
Oh, that's so cool.
You know, he spoke multiple languages. Like, he was very successful, right, by the world standards, right?
Yeah.
But nothing mattered more to him than his family, his faith, his wife.
Yeah.
And so in those moments, you quickly learn and realize, and we end up forgetting, like, it's already just 2 months later, and I'm kind of back into, like, work mode. And you have to work hard. Like, you have to work hard. You want to make money. You want to, like, make a name for yourself and, you know, provide the best you can for yourself and your family, future family, all that. So there's no shame in that. Like, I'm all for that. I'm all about that. But you should never do any of that stuff at the expense of, like, real relationships right here, right now, you know? Because when you die, like, my dad didn't take any of that stuff with him, you know? What he left behind was, like, his legacy. And if you know, those that were at the funeral, like, I mean, he had a wife and 5 kids that, like, worshiped him, you know? And to me, that's the mark of, like, a great man, you know, not like
success.
His net worth.
That's fulfillment.
You know?
That's living the life to the fullest,
Yeah.
you know? Like, obviously, you want to learn and grow as much as possibly can in this life. I'm so big on growth and taking the opportunity for growth. And it sounds like he did that.
Yeah.
Part of that growth comes with family.
Yeah.
I've had, you know, people in my life that just cut people out completely, you know? And they don't reconcile until that person's on their deathbed.
Yeah.
And, like, their own parents, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, like, it's just heart-wrenching. Like, that whole time, like, you have control over the way that you receive things, over the way that you let things impact you. Like, and it's just not worth it. It's not worth putting other things first when, in the end, that's what's going to matter the most to you. No matter what you ask anyone, that's what's going to matter more than anything to them in those last hours.
Yep.
And so I'm so grateful that, like, he was able to have that and that you were able to have that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what, you know, I think that's going back to your anger question. I think that's why I didn't feel any anger, is like he had lived such a good life. Like, I knew that he had no regrets.
Yeah.
And he and I had such a great relationship that even though I didn't get to do, like, some official goodbye, you know, I didn't need to, because, like, we spoke all the time. We had an amazing relationship my entire life.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't need some, like, oh, and by the way, I'm sorry for this, because we just had an awesome relationship.
Yeah.
You know?
That would have made it a lot harder.
Yeah, and I think the people that feel anger, and I don't want this to, you know, strike a chord with anybody that, you know, this isn't pointed at anybody, you know, but one thing they said to us in the hospital as we're, like, having to decide, because we basically could have artificially kept him alive for probably a little bit longer. Like, I mean, but like we went over with multiple doctors, multiple nurses, multiple, whatever their official title is, that are in charge of, like, brain surgeons, you know, different people.
Yeah.
And we had multiple opinions, and it was all unanimously, like, 6 for 6 people of, like, no, like, this, like, no, there's no even remote hope of any form of normalcy. Like, you could artificially keep his lungs, we can keep breathing for him, we can keep doing this stuff. You'll never be able to communicate with him.
Yeah.
You'll never, it's just, so you basically have to decide, like, do we want to pull the plug, as the world calls it? You know, do you want to, like, just turn the machines off and stop keeping him alive artificially? And it was a pretty easy decision for us, because we don't want him to live like that.
Yeah.
He wouldn't want to live like that.
No, yeah.
Especially if, you know, I don't know if you've ever heard of locked-in syndrome, but it's basically where, like, your brain actually becomes very aware of what's happening to you, but you have no way of letting others know.
Yeah.
So you're just, like, laying there for years on end, unable to communicate or do anything.
Oh my gosh, that would be torture.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was like, there's no question. But ironically, the doctors at this point, we've been there for 2 days. They've seen, like, what a great relationship we all have as a family, and with him, and the love that's there. And, you know, after we did make the decision, and they turned the machines off and stuff, they did tell us later, they're like, you know, we do see a lot of families that choose to to not do this. This is the right decision. You guys are making the right decision. We just see people that choose not to. And our observation has been, this is the part that I don't want to offend anybody that maybe has done this, but they said our observation has been that most of those families, there is not a good relationship. You can tell that like
they're
clinging. They don't want to let it go because they have all these regrets.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, that's just a little lesson. Just don't let your pride keep you from reconciling until someone's deathbed.
It's a really important goal to be able to have in this life. You know, like you were saying, your job, your career, it will not matter in the end.
Yeah.
You know, and like you always want to follow your purpose and your passion, but like in the end, it's not going to be something you take with you. It's not going to be something that you care about.
Your legacy is what you leave behind, right? And you want your legacy. I want my legacy to include some business stuff, but like I'd much rather it include he was kind, he was hardworking, he was a man of integrity, he was loving, you know. And so, but there's no shame in working hard. I think there's a lot,
absolutely.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
So,
obviously, you're a very hard worker, but like you are an incredible person, which is why I wanted to have you on.
Thank you. It's very, very kind of you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so I always like to ask this question. I want to know, because everyone has their own experience with this, what to you makes life worth living?
Oh, man. Relationships, people, like... That's the stuff that, when you think about like what you're most passionate about, for me, my answers are always people, relationships, friendships, family, relationships, all that.
That's awesome.
And then I usually say sports and travel, and I feel kind of guilty that I didn't say anything about like church and God and that, but that kind of like directs my life anyway, my core beliefs kind of direct all my decision making. But so for me, like experiences make life worth living. Like I love new experiences. I think that's why I love travel so much, because you experience different cultures and different things and
which is associated with people.
Yeah. And so for me, like new experiences, meeting new people, learning new things, like I just love learning and growing and experiencing. And I don't know, like I have this like desire, this like craving to like, when something comes up in conversation, I want to be able to relate. I want to be able to be like, yes, I've done that. Yes, I've done that.
That's cool.
Maybe with the exception of like illegal activities, But but like, it's just fun when people are like, oh, have you ever been to this place? And you're like, yes, I have. Like Zimbabwe, I've never been, and now I want to go. You know? And so there's just a lot of that, that really drives me and like makes me excited to live life to the fullest. And
totally.
When I die, I want that to be part of my legacy, is like, he just lived every day to the fullest. He got the most out of his days. Mm-hmm. He experienced life in every way imaginable, and so that, along with, of course, relationships, friendships, to me, those are like what make life worth living.
I love that.
I don't know if that answered the question or not.
Absolutely, it did. Okay. No, 100%. And I can relate, and I just think that's incredible. I think it's a huge motivator for people to be able to just keep going. Yeah. Like it's incredible to be able to just know, hey, I just want to grow. I want to learn. I want to experience. I want to like connect, So that's incredible. I love it.
And connecting is a huge part of that, right? Like you want to have a million friends and it's not even like a desire to be famous at all, but it's more of a desire to be like, no, like I just love people. So I'm just collecting friends and memories,
Yep.
So
I have so many people that I know that, I mean, like, Henry Amar.
Yeah.
So he just got married.
Oh, nice.
And I'm just like so stoked for him because he's an incredible human being.
Yeah.
And he married an angel. So I'm like, whew, so happy. But man, his wedding was like at least 300 to 400 people, I swear. And like he had everyone there was just incredible people, incredible individuals. And sitting there, I'm just like, this is what I want my funeral to be like.
Yeah.
Like I just think it is so powerful to be able to connect with so many people in this lifetime. And he's impacted all of their lives in a positive way.
Yeah.
And like, Jimmy's the similar. Mm-hmm. He's got so many people that will show up for him. You are the same way. Yeah. And like, that to me is so fulfilling, and you learn and you experience so much more in this life when you have that, when you have those connections. I've learned from you. I know other people are going to be learning. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, this was fun.
Is there anything that you've got in the works right now, upcoming events or anything to kind of like stay up to date on with your companies?
Tripio is the big thing. So if people want to go to the website, it's just tripioapp.com. Follow Tripio app on Instagram, stuff like that. If people want to support, I would be very grateful.
Yes, it's going to be the next big thing. So if you want to get on it, you want to do it now, because I feel like it's going to be like Airbnb like blew up. Then there's TripAdvisor. There's all these different things. You can be like, I remember listening to this guy before the app was even released. Yeah. That's going to be what this is.
I hope so. Fingers
what's
crossed.
the Instagram for it?
Tripio app.
Tripio app. Yep. And then Adventure Hunt. Is that adventurehuntco.co?
Yeah, on Instagram it's just adventurehunt.co.
Okay, perfect. And then website for Tripio is?
tripioapp.com.
Perfect.
Yep.
Sweet. Well, I'm excited to see where all this goes. Like Tripio, I'm going to be way on top of, because I travel a ton. Yeah. My husband's going to love it. So we're going to definitely be involved and using Tripio. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you. Sean is incredible. So stay up to date with all of his stuff, and maybe I'll have you on again later on and we'll get another update.
I'd love it. Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching or listening. If you liked this episode, subscribe and follow along. If there's someone you feel like would be a good fit for the show, feel free to send me recommendations on Instagram at alifeworthliving.show. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'm grateful to have you here. And until next time, have a great week.